Gabung Brevet Pajak IAI, pilihan tepat untuk Anda. Pelatihan Brevet IAI, ahli pajak, bedah substansi, temukan solusi. Kenapa memilih IAI? Modul yang selalu update dan materi yang dilengkapi dengan pembahasan studi kasus komprehensif. Instruktur yang terjaga kompetensinya, berpengalaman dan tentu saja profesional. Apa aja yang didapat kalau belajar pajak? Sudah pasti, kita jadi tahu seluk-beluk perhitungan pajak. Menjadi kuasa hukum perpajakan mewakili perusahaan, meningkatkan karir dan menunjang profesi. Kalau ingin menjadi konsultan pajak, belajar brevet pajak juga bisa sebagai langkah persiapan USKP. So, banyak kan manfaat belajar brevet pajak? Sebagai benefit tambahan, IAI melaksanakan program kuliah umum perpajakan dengan menghadirkan narasumber dari praktisi dan profesional di bidang perpajakan. IAI juga melaksanakan gathering alumni brevet untuk senantiasa mengupdate informasi perpajakan. Kalian juga tidak perlu bingung, karena IAI menyiapkan berbagai pilihan waktu belajar, jadi dapat disesuaikan dengan kebutuhan. Bagi teman-teman mahasiswa, IAI juga memberikan harga khusus mahasiswa aktif. Selama pandemi, IAI juga tetap hadir dalam pelatihan brevet pajak secara virtual dengan menggunakan platform Microsoft Teams. Hal ini juga memungkinkan untuk dapat diikuti oleh peserta dari seluruh Indonesia. Dan, untuk diketahui, pelatihan brevet pajak terapan IAI juga diperkuat dengan MOU antara IAI dan Direktorat Jenderal Pajak. IAI juga memiliki kompartemen akuntan perpajakan. Yang salah satu kegiatan rutinnya adalah menyelenggarakan regular tax discussion yang mengupas isu perpajakan terkini. Pelatihan brevet IAI hadir di 6 knowledge center di Jabodetabek, IAI Knowledge Center Menteng, Moy, Serpong, Kedoya, Fatmawati, dan Sumarekon Bekasi. Selain itu, dengan standarisasi nasional, pelatihan brevet IAI juga hadir di beberapa IAI wilayah di Indonesia. Nah, jadi tunggu apa lagi? Ayo segera daftar pelatihan brevet pajak terapan IAI. Pelatihan brevet IAI, ahli pajak, bedah substansi, temukan solusi.
What kind of tomorrow do you want to shape? A connected world, working together to prosper and thrive. Training as a chartered accountant puts you in a position to make a real difference, giving you the skills and perspectives to build the tomorrow you want. Become a difference maker. Become a chartered accountant.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat datang dalam acara Puncak IAI APAFest 2020, Scanning the Horizon, Embracing the Future. Setelah 3 kali penyelenggaraan yang sukses, IAI pada tahun ini menggelar APAFest secara virtual. Babak ini merupakan babak yang paling dinantikan oleh seluruh peserta kompetisi APAFest 2020.
Bagaimana para akuntan profesional itu bisa memberikan suatu percepatan, outcome based, dan juga efisiensi dan bisa meningkatkan produktivitas.
IFAC, through its network of member PAOs and other partner organizations, is the voice of the professional accountancy organization.
Berharap seluruh
Profesi akuntansi memiliki ikrar untuk terus meningkatkan profesionalitas, kompetensi, dan integritasnya.
Tantangan akuntan muda pada saat ini tidaklah kecil, karena harus bersaing dalam konteks global. Maka itu harus meningkatkan hard skill dan soft skill, dan mulailah untuk membangun networking. Hal ini bisa dilakukan dengan aktif dalam organisasi profesi seperti IAI ini, mengikuti konferensi dan seminar, serta kompetisi ilmiah.
Pada generasi muda akuntan Indonesia yang menjadi peserta di IFAC, saya berharap agar para akuntan muda juga mampu menguasai teknologi. Jangan pernah berhenti belajar. Manfaatkan kesempatan untuk memperdalami dunia keilmuan dan pengalaman berbisnis, sehingga kemampuan kalian dapat terasah.
Jadi di sini profesi akuntan juga harus mendukung BUMN yang lebih transparan dan bertanggung jawab kepada negara dan masyarakat.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 4th Finance and Business 2030 event part of the Building Resilience series.
Kind assistant to kindly mute your microphone because we're going live on our YouTube. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, we will start live from our YouTube in 3.
Indonesia Chartered Accountants, IAI. Excellent Professional Accountants, Advance Indonesia.
Recording in progress.
The Institute of Indonesia Chartered Accountants, IAI, actively supports the development of human resource and economic transformation in Indonesia.
Akuntan memiliki peran penting dalam pembangunan nasional yang berkesinambungan.
The accountancy profession is supporting efforts to improve the professionalism of Indonesian human resource so that they can work optimally to support efficient and transparent economic development. Through Initiative 6.1, which has been established as a general program of the IEI Council for the period of 2018-2022. IAI is ready to work and contribute to the safeguarding of the nation economy towards Indonesia Emas 2045.
Saya sangat mendukung rencana IAI untuk mempercepat program sertifikasi agar para akuntan di negara kita memiliki kreativitas, inovasi, keterampilan, dan memiliki daya saing, dan sekali lagi dalam rangka mendukung pengembangan ekosistem kita yang lebih akuntabel, lebih efisien, goal-oriented, dan inovatif.
This responsibility is materialized through the Chartered Accountant or CA Indonesia as the identity for Indonesian professional accountants, and the quality is globally recognized. Initiative 6.1 includes 6 steps of action with one strategic objective to strengthen the role of IAI in increasing public trust in business and public entities by preparing professional accountants with integrity ready to face the future.
Kepada generasi muda akuntan Indonesia yang menjadi peserta di IFAC, saya berharap agar para akuntan muda juga mampu menguasai teknologi. Jangan pernah berhenti belajar. Manfaatkan kesempatan untuk memperdalami dunia keilmuan dan pengalaman berbisnis, sehingga kemampuan kalian dapat terasah.
IAI carries out its duties and responsibilities to compile the financial accounting standards and professional standards, carry out certification examination, as well as other professional activities referring to the International Federation of Accountants and Chartered Accountants worldwide. IAI for Society is run to provide greater benefits for the community and to bring the profession closer to public. IAI's founding fathers have set two goals for the establishment of IAI. The Institute of Indonesia Chartered Accountants, IAI, was organized to enhance the quality of accountants' education and improve the quality of Indonesian accountants' work. IAI, Mastering Change, Preparing for the Future.
What kind of tomorrow do you want to shape? A connected world, working together to prosper and thrive. Training as a chartered accountant puts you in a position to make a real difference, giving you the skills and perspectives to build the tomorrow you want. Become a difference maker. Become a chartered accountant.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the APA Fest webinar series, an inspiring session with IFAC President, How to Be a Difference Maker. Before we start this webinar, I would like to greet Mr. Alan Johnson, the President of International Federation of Accountants, Professor Mardiasmo, the President of Institute of Indonesia Chartered Accountants, Profesor Siddhartha Utama, National Council Member of IAI, Bapak Ahmadi Hadibroto, IAI President period of 2002 until 2010, IAI National Council Member, Bapak Gatot Trihargo, the Chairman of Indonesian Institute of Management Accountant, Bapak Hendang Tanusjaya, the Chairman of Institute of Certified Public Accountants, Ibu Elizarni Husin, Executive Director of IAI, leaders of the profession from Indonesia, accounting students, all participants of APA Fest 2021. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Monica Nabilia, and it's such an honor to be the host for the session. Ladies and gentlemen, following the successful hosting the Aspiring Professional Accountant Festival in 2020, host for the first time ever as a virtual event, IAI is proud to host the APA Fest 2021. APA Fest 2021 is the fifth on the series. APA Fest 2021 is the largest and the most prestigious annual event for IAI student members and outstanding accounting students in Indonesia. With the theme, Proud to be an Accountant, CA is a Difference Maker, APA Fest 2021 looks to continue the festival success of bringing together different platforms for aspiring accountants in Indonesia, including APA Champ, National APA Award, Popular SI Competition, Career Fair and Virtual Visit, Social Media Content Competition, Accounting Video Competition, Webinar Series, and CA Scholarship Award. APA Fest 2021 has officially begun in August 2021 and will culminate in a collaboration with the annual international activities for young accountants, namely FinBiz 2030, organized by One Young World and Chartered Accountant Worldwide on November 10, 2021, with the theme Recover, Refocus, Rebuild. This session also coincides the commemoration of International Accounting Day. APA Fest 2021 is fully supported by ASEAN Federation of Accountants, SPENMO, Astra International, and EY Indonesia. More information about APA Fest, please visit our website apafest.iaiglobal.or.id. Ladies and gentlemen, to start our session today, let us hear the welcoming remarks which will be delivered by IAI Executive Director, Ibu Elizarni Husin. Ibu Elizarni Husin, how are you, Bu?
Good, thank you, Monica.
Okay, I think it's now the time to listen to your opening remarks.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Mr. Alan Johnson, President of the International Federation of Accountants, Profesor Madiasmo, President of the Institute of Indonesia Chartered Accountant, Bapak Ahmadi Hadibroto, former President of IAI and former IFAC board member, Profesor Siddhartha Utama, IAI National Council, Profesor Rindawati Gani, IAI National Council and IFAC Membership Committee, Bapak Gatot Trihargo, member of IAI Advisory Council, President of IAMI, Bapak Hendang Tanusjaya, President of IATI, Ibu Andara Mona Sinaga, Representative of Financial Profession Supervisory Agency, Ministry of Finance, IAI National Council, accounting students, IAI members, and all participants of the IAI Aspiring Professional Accountant Festival. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. On behalf of the Institute of Indonesia Chartered Accountant, please allow me to welcome you to today's webinar, held as part of our continuing APA Fest 2021, the biggest festival for accounting students in Indonesia. My highest appreciation to Mr. Alan Johnson, IFAC President, for allowing his time to share with us his inspirational message. It is indeed an honor for us to welcome him for the second time in today's exceptional APA Fest webinar attended by participation from all over Indonesia. Since its first time conducted in 2017, APA Fest is held virtually for the second time. Today's event is the perfect culmination for our APA Fest 2021. More than 3,500 participants have registered in our APA Fest portal. More than 1,000 students from universities all over Indonesia participated in various competitions and IICA Scholarship Award, and more than 10,000 viewers tuning into the webinar series on current issues relevant to aspiring and professional accountant. Through the IAI Aspiring Professional Accountant Festival, IAI creates a platform for young accountants to express their aspiration, meet with leaders of profession, and establish the pathway for their future as a professional accountant. Our series of events under APA Fest 2021 will culminate in November 10, a celebration of International Accounting Days in a joint session together with the Building Resilience, Finance and Business 2030, a joint initiative between One Young World and Chartered Accountant Worldwide. FinBiz 2030 aims to establish an active and engaged finance and business community globally that is dedicated to achieving the UN SDGs by 2030. Taking the theme of recover, refocus, rebuild, we will have important sharing from the Minister of Finance of Republic of Indonesia, Ibu Sri Mulyani Indrawati, and Michael Iza, Chairman of Chartered Accountant Worldwide. The joint session is streamed live all over the world and will present a panel discussion with a panel of young professionals from around the world, with emphasis on those making difference in Indonesia and the Asia region. Make sure you are joining us on the date and participate in the winners announcement and closing ceremony of the APA Fest 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme for APA Fest 2021 is proud to be an accountant. CA is a difference maker. As societies regain their strength, as business learn to adapt and operate hybrid working models, and as life resume with new normal, we need trusted advisor more than ever. During these times of global recovery, the role of accountancy, finance, and business professional is crucial. It is even more important for the accountancy profession to demonstrate our relevance to the stakeholders. A chartered accountant is empowered with the unique skill required to drive business decisions that help create better economies and community. CA is now recognized as a difference maker, particularly in today's fastly changing environment. As a difference maker, a CA can be an agent of change and contribute to his organization and or environment. We hope APAFest will continue to be an excellent platform for stakeholders on the profession to engage with the best accounting students from universities all over Indonesia and to encourage them to embrace the future of the profession as one of the important components for a stronger economy of Indonesia. On behalf of II, I would like to once again express my appreciation and thanks International Federation of Accountants, Chartered Accountant Worldwide, ASEAN Federation of Accountants, and all of our partners for the support in this APAFest 2020. I hope you enjoy this webinar and the rest of our APAFest 2021 activities. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Ibu Eli, for the welcoming remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, our next agenda is opening remarks from IAI President, which will be delivered by Professor Mardiasmo. Professor Mardiasmo, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Monica.
Okay, now let us hear the opening remarks from the IAI President, Professor Mardiasmo. The screen is yours, Pak.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Mr. Alan Johnson, President of the International Federation of Accountants, Bapak Ahmad Yati Broto, former President of IAI and former IFAC board members, Professor Sidharta Utama, IAI National Council member, Professor Rindawati Gani, IAI National Council member, and member of the IFAC Membership Committee, IAI National Council members, Bapak Gatot Trihargo, Chairman of Indonesian Institute of Management Accountants, Bapak Indang Tanusjaya, Chairman of Indonesian Institute of Certified Public Accountant, IAI Executive Director Bu Eli Zuniat Husin, accounting students, IAI members, and all participants of the IAI Aspiring Professional Accountant Festival APAFest 2021. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, welcome to APAFest 2021, the biggest festival for accounting students in Indonesia. First of all, I would like to thank and welcome Mr. Alan Johnson for joining us today in the session, an inspiring session with the IFAC President. This is the second consecutive APAFest attended by Mr. Johnson, following last year's inspiring session when he was the Deputy President of the IFAC. APAFest is one of the IAI's important initiatives in developing the young generation of Indonesian accountants. IAI's National Council has placed APAFest in Prakarsa 6.1 as one of our strategy program with the aim to strengthen IAI's role in increasing public trust in business and public entity by preparing professional accountants to face the future. As previously stated by our Executive Director, Ibu Eli, more than 3,500 participants have registered to APAFest 2021 portal, with more than 1,000 students from universities all over Indonesia participated in various competitions and the IAICA Scholarship Award. Running simultaneously with the webinar, the biggest accounting student business competition in Indonesia, APA Championships 2021 semi-final round is also underway to find the best candidates for Indonesian professional accountant who will become the backbone of Indonesian profession and economy in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry, as a member of IFAC, IAI is committed to work hand in hand with IFAC and continue to collaborate in developing the accountancy profession in Indonesia and globally. Our most recent collaboration will focus on supporting Indonesia G20 presidency in 2022. IAI is ready to further elaborate this collaboration in order to increase the role of the participant, the role of the profession in global economic recovery, especially after the COVID crisis. As a network partner of the B20, IFAC conveys strategic communication to G20 countries in the context improving the global economy. Therefore, IAI will take part in this important initiative, not only at the national level, but regionally and internationally. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme for the year's APAFest is proud to be an accountant. CA is the difference makers. It aims at providing an understanding to the younger generation and professional accountant of the important role of chartered accountant or CA in long-term development initiative toward the goal of Indonesia Emas 2045. CA is the identity of Indonesian professional accountants that represent all the values and competencies attached to them. CA was built to ensure the optimal contribution of IAI member in building the national economies. I urge all students who's participating in this APAFest not to be complacent and achieving academic competence. Keep reaching to your dream to become a professional accountant so that you can optimally contribute to the development of our country. Today, you will have an invaluable opportunity to hear from IFAC President, Mr. Alan Johnson, who will be accompanied by Professor Sidara Utama, a National Council member of IAI. I would like to once again express my gratitude to Alan and IFAC for allowing his time to grace our webinar and inspire the next generation of accountants in Indonesia. My appreciation is also to Chartered Accountant Worldwide, Asian Federation of Accountants, and all our partners for their support for the success of the year's APAFest event. With a prayer for the blessing of God Almighty, let's start our webinar today, an inspiring session with IFAC President. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon.
More for opening this webinar. Before we start the session, I would like to invite all of you to have a group picture. So please, Profesor Sidarta Utama, Bapak Alan Johnson, Mr. Alan Johnson, Bapak Ahmadi Hadibroto, Ibu Elizarni Husin, Ibu Ramona Sinaga, Belinda, and Bapak Kushari. Could you please smile on the camera, and I'll count to 3. Then we will have a group picture. Okay, all smile. 1, 2, and 3. Another pose. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, before we start this webinar, I would like to read the housekeeping rules that apply for the session. The first one is we wish for all of the participants mute their microphone and also video. IAI is recording this webinar and will show this recording on our social media, also our communication platform. To ask a question, please use Q&A function. Materials and recording can be accessible on IAI website and also social media. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, our session today is an inspiring session with IFAC President, how to become a difference maker. Here with us today, we have IFAC President, Mr. Alan Johnson, who will deliver a keynote speech and join the discussion with Professor Siddhartha Utama, IAI National Council member. This session will be hosted by Belinda Azahra, the first winner of National APA Award 2020, and also the first winner of APA Best Paper 2020. Before we start the session, let me read a short bio from our speakers and also moderator. The first one is Mr. Alan Johnson. Alan Johnson becoming IFAC President in November 2020, having previously served as Deputy President from 2018 until 2020, and a board member since November 2015. On January 2021, Mr. Johnson was appointed a non-executive director and member of the Audit and the Succession and Appointments Committees of Imperial Brands, a FTSE 100 company in the UK. Mr. Johnson was a member of IFAC Professional Accountants in Business Committee between 2011 and 2015, a member of ACCA Market Oversight Committee between 2006 and 2011, and a chair of accountants for Business Global Forum until 2018. Our next panel is Professor Siddhartha Utama. Professor Siddhartha Utama is a member of IAI National Council and has been serving for 2 terms of office, 2010 until 2018. He was previously representing Indonesia in the International Accounting Education Standard Board for 2-year terms of stewardship. Since 2015, Professor Siddhartha Utama is also AFA Council member. Currently, he is the Professor of Faculty of Economics and Business at Universitas Indonesia. Professor Siddhartha is also a member of Audit Committee in several private companies in Indonesia. The last but not least, our host, Belinda Azahra. Belinda Azahra is the first winner of National APA Award and APA Best Paper 2020. She is an accounting student from Universitas Indonesia. Belinda is an aspiring professional accountant who has remarkable achievement of as an accounting student. Accounting profession in Indonesia is proud to have Belinda as our future leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, I will hand over the session to Belinda. Belinda, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Monica, for the warm welcome. First of all, I would like to greet the International Federation of Accountant President, Mr. Alan Johnson, the Institute of Indonesia Chartered Accountant President, Professor Mardiasmo, IAI National Council member, Professor Siddhartha Utama, and all others honorable members, IAI Executive Director, Ibu Eli Zarni Husin, and also all honorables attendee and participants today. It's an honor for me, Belinda Zahra, as an accounting student, to moderate today's sessions. Sustainability has become a critical issue for our business worldwide across all sectors and functions. The 2020 World Economic Forum also stated that significant business risks nowadays were linked to environmental challenge. To face this challenge, accountants will need a greater awareness how they can make a difference, as well as developing the professional skills and competences to support stronger and sustainable organizations. This is really aligned with the Institute of Indonesia Chartered Accountant or IAI mission through APA Fest 2021 collaborating with IFAC to create Chartered Accountant as a difference maker. Therefore, it's my honor to let Mr. Alan Johnson as IFAC President to deliver your speech. The screen is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Belinda. And let me take this opportunity to congratulate you on being the first winner of the National APA Award 2020. And also thank you very much for your dedication to our profession. I'd also like to thank Monica for your early introduction. So good afternoon, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Mr. President, Professor Madiasmo and Executive Director Eli Hussein, thank you very much for inviting me back to APAFest. It is an honor to join you today at the Aspiring Professional Accountants Festival for 2021. Obviously, I regret I cannot be with you there in person, but I'm sure that we're all looking forward to the day when we have the freedom to travel safely, freely again. And I understand that Indonesia is opening up in the coming days, which is fantastic. So hopefully we'll have the opportunity of visiting your wonderful country. So these conversations about our future, especially with the young people who are indeed our future, could not be more important. So, because for the accountancy profession to continue to thrive and remain relevant, we need to make the case that we are the right match for your generation's personal interests and career ambitions. And we also need to hear from you so that we can better understand your passions, your priorities, and to build your aspirations into our plans for the profession's future. So I'll begin offering a few thoughts on some of the biggest issues facing the global profession. And these are the focus of IFAC's recent call to action for the 2020 G20 Summit, 2021 G20 Summit, which ended over the weekend in Rome. So as the world continues to battle with the COVID-19 pandemic, there is some cause for optimism. But what the pandemic has done has reinforced the notion that we simply cannot hope for a better future. We must build a better future, and there's no time really to waste. So at IFAC, we identified 4 priorities and 2 actions and 1 goal in our G20 call to action. And the 4 priorities really give a sense of the big picture of the challenges and opportunities we face, or indeed we will soon face as a profession. So one of the priorities is to accelerate sustainability and inclusiveness. And the time is running out to deliver the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. Governments, businesses, and all other stakeholders must play their part, and so must we as individuals. We must recommit to global collaboration. Working together through global institutions is clearly the only way to solve the challenges of the 21st century. And we saw that highlighted so many times over the past 21 months in dealing with the COVID pandemic. We are only where we are today because of the strong collaboration across nations across the world. Third, we need to resist regulatory fragmentation because the cost of fragmentation is enormous to society. Society simply cannot afford it, particularly with respect to the global issues such as climate change and sustainability. And fourth, we are asking the G20 to focus on the public sector transparency and integrity, because the social contract between citizens and governments is under stress, and transparency, integrity are essential to build and sustain trust. So delivering on these 4 priorities will take a concerted effort from policymakers, from businesses, from other organizations, from investors, and in fact, from all of us. And the accountancy profession is and will remain an essential partner on each of these priorities. In addition to these 4 priorities, we also called on the G20 to focus on 2 actions that will move the needle on sustainability and inclusivity and prosperity. The first action was to support the IFRS Foundation's initiative on sustainability standards, because we all know that demand is growing nearly everywhere for sustainability disclosures. And for organizations to deliver high quality data in sustainability disclosures, the world needs a truly global system of sustainable finance. And momentum is growing around developing a global baseline of sustainability standards, with the IFAC Foundation poised hopefully to deliver. Right now, global policymakers have a unique opportunity to avoid costly regulatory fragmentation by building a comprehensive, consistent, and reliable global system for corporate reporting in order to deliver a sustainable, inclusive, and equitable future. So we must simply seize this opportunity before it is gone. And based on the latest climate predictions, we do not have long. So IFAC and the entire accountancy profession is ready to be part of that solution. The second action is to champion public financial management, or what we call PFM, because PFM is at the heart of public sector transparency and integrity, and it is vital to any government's ability to serve the public effectively. And we all know that a robust public financial management system means that the resources are allocated appropriately against public policy objectives that are in the public interest. And governments must endeavor to achieve the most with the resources they have, whilst of course minimizing loss through waste, fraud, or corruption. And high quality PFM is necessary to make this happen, because it's founded on commitment from political leaders and senior management within public sectors. It's a framework that is comprehensive, interconnected, it's principles-based, and more importantly, outcomes focused. The utilization of standards such as accrual accounting standards and any future public sector accounting standards, and people with the appropriate training, the skills, and the ethics of professional accountants. And this brings me to one goal in our call to action, which is building a more sustainable, inclusive, and prosperous economy and society, both in a COVID recovery period, but indeed well beyond that. Because the world's governments really now must advance from crisis response to recovery with sustainable fiscal measures and programs to bring about a digital, green, and equitable future. And the profession must innovate, advise, and lead wherever and whenever we can. Because it is clear to me, not just from survey data, but also from my own personal experience as a father of a final year university student, that the next generation, such as yourselves, want careers that are not only stable, but also fulfilling. And not just that, because you want to work and associate with professions and organizations that are purpose-driven, whose actions deliver value to the whole of society, and not just to a narrow set of owners or stakeholders. So for the young and aspiring accountants in this audience, I would like to emphasize that our profession is a public interest profession. We have an ethical responsibility to do the right thing for people, for organizations, and indeed for the planet. That is codified in the International Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants. And surveys consistently show that we as a profession are amongst the most trusted institutions in the world, where public trust is low and has been falling in recent years. The accountancy profession is on the forefront of millions of organizations on the front lines, whether they are public or private. Our reach is remarkable, and our opportunity to make a difference as a profession is unmatched. If you want to make a difference, you will find a home in the accountancy profession. Your generation is studying, graduating, and beginning to work in a global economy facing challenges and uncertainty unlike anything in recent memory. You are inheriting a world that is suffering from the pandemics of COVID, of pollution, and of climate change. And let me add, of inequality that sadly has been increasing despite strong economic conditions pre-COVID-19. The climate crisis will in fact affect life everywhere, including, sadly, in Indonesia. The latest World Bank projections show that Indonesia's geography, combined with the central role of natural resources in India's economy, make it extremely vulnerable to the kinds of extreme weather we can expect with climate change. More floods, more drought, disruptions to weather patterns that support the incredible diversity of wildlife in the Indonesian archipelago. Climate change will not only be a profound disruptor to business as usual, but we must begin to take real action to address this for the sake of your children and indeed your grandchildren. There's another important trend that is affecting our lives, and that is the digital transformation. The pace of digitalization has increased significantly over the past decade. And thanks to this, we're able to look to a future where services can be made more accessible to wider parts of society. Our profession is focused on how we as individuals will fit into organizations and economies that are changing rapidly due to digitalization. In the digital future, accountants will need to perform new roles with broader responsibilities rather than exclusively just technical ones. Businesses need dynamic professionals with a deep understanding of the finance function, a wide view of an organization, and the required technical skills. These developments will always create a need for trusted advisors with the right skills, and most importantly, the integrity of professional ethics of an accountant across all organizations. As a result, our profession is an ideal place to learn and develop in different business environments. And with our work towards future fitness, by, for example, emphasizing the importance of sustainability in the education and training offered by professional accountancy organizations, such as IAI, our profession shows that it can and will respond to global transformations. We are committed to serving the public interest and adding value to businesses and economies today and in the new, uncertain, and disruptive environments for decades to come. So I'd like to just add a few words on my own journey as a professional accountant, because several things drew me to our profession and continue to motivate me. I have always believed that the accounting profession plays key roles in all organizations, whether they're in the corporate or public sectors, in large or small firms or medium-sized practices, or indeed in the not-for-profit sector, because our unique analytical skills, our professional judgment, and ethical training are critical to support organizations to create sustainable value and communicate effectively with all stakeholders. And the profession's role in the global economy and in serving the public interest is simply enormous. The accountancy profession has given me a fulfilling and rewarding career over more than 40 years. My background as a professional accountant in business started with my career at Unilever in the UK, working across all product areas, both in operating companies and in corporate roles. And I had the opportunity to work in 7 countries in Europe, Africa, and Latin America. And I had the pleasure of visiting PT Unilever Indonesia on a number of occasions. And I was always impressed by the dynamism of my Indonesian colleagues and the remarkable development of your country. I've also been a CFO of a listed company in Portugal with operations in Poland and Colombia. And today, apart from being the IFAC president, which is a great honor, I'm a non-executive director on 2 company boards, and I also chair the board of a British international school in Portugal, where I have the great pleasure of seeing how we can provide the learning opportunities to develop future global leaders. I joined this profession because I really believed 40 years ago that it was truly a force for good and contributed so much to the development of societies and nations. Unilever gave me the opportunity to follow my passion, and ACCA offered me the qualification that gave me the training and professional skills to succeed. But joining the profession is not all. I stayed in the profession because it is exactly what I believed it was, a force for good in the world. So to conclude, I would like to add that despite so much uncertainty about the future, one thing will not change, and in fact, will remain as clear as day: our profession's commitment to ethics. The International Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants underpins everything we do and gives us the right to operate as professional accountants. That is what makes it possible for us to influence public policies and speak out on issues that are relevant to our profession, to the economy, on technology, on sustainability, and to society at large. And no matter what course the future takes, the profession must continue to work towards global adoption and implementation of our ethical principles. Otherwise, simply, we will lose our right to be heard and taken seriously. Thanks again to IAI for inviting me for today's session of APA Fest 2021, which is an excellent model for how PAOs should engage with the next generation of accountants. I encourage everyone listening to look to IAI as it continues towards developing a sustainable future for our profession and our world. Last month, I had the privilege of meeting the Indonesian B20 leadership as Indonesia commences its presidency of the G20. I would like to wish Indonesia much success as it leads the G20, and indeed as it leads the world, guiding us all towards greater prosperity through more sustainable and responsible behavior. IAI is a founding member of IFAC in 1977, is a very active member of the IFAC family, and we really appreciate what you have done for nearly 64 years by contributing to the development of a strong accountancy profession in Indonesia and the economic development of your country, and through your engagement across the ASEAN region. And I thank you all for everything you're doing under the leadership of your president, your executive director, and your council members. I also wish to take the opportunity to recognize the work of Mr. Amade Hadibroto, who was a member of the IFAC board when I joined in 2015, for his outstanding contribution to the profession over many decades. And also to Professor Lindawati Ghani, who currently serves on the IFAC membership committee. And also to Professor Utama for his service on IFAC's Education Standards Board. I look forward to the discussion together with Professor Utama and of course, hearing from you all. So thank you very much for your time. With that, I will now hand back to, is it to Monica or to Belinda? I'm not sure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Alan Johnson. That was a very remarkable speech. If I can sum up an important point that is also being our main discussions today, that accounting profession as an important role in business also has responsibility in maintaining sustainability, not only for the company, but also for the world as the difference maker. For the next sessions, it's a very honor for me, Belinda Azahra, to host the sessions. We are going to deeply to talk about the key future challenges and opportunity for future accountant, initiatives on education, and the future of our professions. I'm honored to welcome IFAC President, Mr. Alan Johnson, and Institute of Indonesia Chartered Accountant National Council member, Professor Siddhartha Utama. I want to remind all of the participants, if you have any questions, feel free to put it on our Q&A box in Zoom chat and also YouTube chat box. We will pick several questions in the end of our main sessions. Okay, let's get started. Good afternoon, Mr. Alan Johnson and Professor Siddhartha.
Good afternoon, Belinda.
Yes, I hope both of you are in a very great conditions to start our discussions today, sir. To combat the enthusiasm of the participants, let's just get started to discuss by addressing some questions from me. and then we will move to the questions from the participants. So for Mr. Alan Johnson, related to your speech before, in the last 18 months has shown us how a major event such as pandemic can significantly change our business landscape and quite possibly the future of our professions. So based on your observations, what are the key changes that future accountants in particular need to be aware of, and how can they respond to these changes?
Thank you, Belinda. So I think in my remarks, I referred to digitalization. And what we are seeing is how digitalization is actually impacting all of our lives. I would say mostly for the good. If I look at it in terms of our profession, it's allowing us to do our work more efficiently. It's allowing us, for example, as professional accountants, to have a much better understanding of what's going on in our businesses, in society, making sense of all of that. You know, we have the analytical skills to take big chunks of information and data, analyze them, interpret them, and then explain what it means and what we need to do. Those are the kind of skills, the innovative and creative skills that we have. And digitalization is allowing us to do that much more efficiently, to be a partner across business, in the public sector, in the private sector, etc. The other thing I would say is, when I look at the world today, in terms of the pandemic, it has clearly disrupted societies. It has disrupted supply chains. We're all struggling at the moment, particularly in the West, with getting goods and products that ordinarily would have been shipped over very short time frames into the marketplace. We're all struggling with significant disruptions. And therefore, one of the things I believe we as professional accountants, together with our partners, need to do is to rebuild resilience in society, rebuild resilience in businesses, to ensure that we can cope much better in the future with such impacts coming from, you know, a pandemic which could not have probably been predicted accurately. The impact we could not have certainly known that it would be as bad as it has been. So I would say we've got an important role to play in rebuilding resilience. I would also say that we need to think about how we manage risk. Because one of the things that the pandemic has shown us is that we were unprepared. We didn't have a backup plan. We didn't have a plan B, because none of us, myself included, had imagined that we would have a global pandemic that would go right across the world. It would not respect borders and would impact every country, bar probably one or two, across the world, and the speed in which it's done that. And therefore, we need to think about how we understand what these so-called black swan events the impact they could have, and ensure that we have that on our risk registers, and we understand the nature of the risk, we understand the impact of the risk, and we build resilience in order to cope with that. The other thing I would say is that the pandemic has shown, and I would say it's a positive, that we can work collaboratively together, not necessarily having to be in the same place. You know, the concept of remote working, which if you'd asked me 3 years ago how the world would survive working remotely, I probably would have said impossible, quite honestly. But it just shows you that, you know, necessity is the mother of invention, and we've all adopted different working styles and adapted to a different reality. And I think that's very good, and I applaud everyone who's done that. It's not been easy, but we've been able to do that. But of course, with that comes some other downsides, such as the impact of cybersecurity, you know, the threats from that, as we're all working remotely. from home, etc. So that's another role where I think our profession needs to help organizations reinforce resilience around technology and cybersecurity. So I'm going to stop there for now, but I'm sure we're going to come back to this topic.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Johnson. So highlighting we have to rebuild our resilience, reinforce the cybersecurity, manage our risks, and work collaboratively across the globe. So moving into the next questions for Professor Siddhartha. Related to our current dynamics and global changes caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, the IFAC initiation can be explained regarding 5 aspects, from supporting international standard, contributing to global economy, building trust and ethics, developing accountancy professions, and preparing future-ready professionals. But how does the Institute of Indonesia Chartered Accountant, or IAI, translate this target into its national program, Pak?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Belinda. Good afternoon, Mr. Alan Johnson, Prof. Mardiasmo, and all ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to thank you, IAI, for inviting me to be one of the panelists in this very important event. So with regard to your questions, so actually, IAI has developed a strategic plan, and our strategic plan actually are in line, with the 5 points that you mentioned earlier, with regard to IFAC strategic plan. So we also agree, that digitalization is also very important, and as you know, I have experience as a member of ISB, and in 2017, actually, we agreed that the curriculum for ICT for CA, for accounting professional should be improved. Okay, so we developed the standards, and it was finally approved in 2019, 1 year, right? 1 year before the pandemic. So, and I think this is really very important, that a professional accountant has to have a master, in digitalization, in ICT skills. And so IAI actually currently is reviewing its curriculum for chartered accountants, and we want to also enhance, the competencies of our members in terms of ICT and also in terms of digital. And hopefully in the near future, we can start enact the curriculums. In addition to that, we also keep continuously developing our CPD, continuing professional development programs. We want to put more emphasis on digitalization, and not only that, but also on sustainability. Because we think we know that G20 has just finished, and one key topic area discussed in G20 is regarding sustainability, and we believe that the professional accountant has a very strategic role in promoting sustainability. Why is that so? Well, because when a companies perform their operations, it has impacts on environmental and also on social impact to the societies. And so far, there has been a problem on how to measure, the impact of the business on environmental and also social impact to the communities. So it's actually, that's the opportunity for us as a professional accountants, because we are trained to have an expertise in terms of measuring. So far we focus more on financial measures, but I think in the futures it's not. I think it's not a challenge, but it's an opportunity for the professions to also be proactive, in developing sustainability standards. And IAI Definitely, we want to be actively participate, with IFAC, collaborating with IFAC in achieving this goal. I also realized that it's very important to have to promote transparency not only in private sectors but also public sectors. So that's why our activities cover not only for business enterprise. We also address the issues on public governance, including public accountabilities. And I think this is also in line with the strategy of IFAC. So that these basically are some key strategies that I want to pursue in the near future, in the next 5-10 years. First of all is digitalizations. The second one is sustainability, and the third one is public and also private accountability and transparency. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Siddhartha. Moving on to the next questions for Mr. Johnson. Related to chartered accountant, how can a chartered accountant have the ability to optimally anticipate change, and what makes chartered accountant holders better prepared to deal with dynamics and changes?
Thank you, Belinda. So when I look at the training that we have and the skills that we develop as we become professional accountants, one of the things that certainly I believe makes a difference is that we truly operate right across an organization. And what do I mean by that? One of the things I've always believed is, whilst we are professional accountants, we need to get out of the function and become true business partners. We need to understand the business in its entirety. So one of the things that I've always believed in is that we need to become what I call true business partners, which means we bring our professionalism, we bring our skills, we bring our ethics into conversations, but we become partners right across the organization, whether it's in the supply chain, whether it's the marketing function, the HR function, the manufacturing function, the sales function, etc. Because we, as professional accountants, have a very good understanding, or should have a very good understanding, of how businesses work and how the bits and pieces that create the organization and the effective organization work collaboratively together. So that's how I believe that the professional accountants should work. We need to understand the business. We need to contribute to strategy development. We need to contribute to the execution of the business plans. We have to be there to, if you like, measure performance, measure it accurately, transparently. We need to make sure that businesses or any organizations are on track to deliver their commitments. And of course, where we're not delivering appropriately, to make sure that we get back on track. I'll just give you an example. We've all talked a lot about sustainability. And we all know that at COP26, which is taking place in Glasgow over the next 10 days, a lot of commitments are going to be made about net zero in 2030, 2040, 2050, 2060. I even heard 2070 yesterday. And that's okay. But let's be honest, none of the political or business leaders that are making these commitments in Glasgow over the next 10 days are going to be there in 20, 30, and 40 years' time to be held accountable for the commitments they've made. So one of the key roles that we have to play is to ensure that we have short-term, measurable actions in place, that we know that we are on track. The worst thing we can do is wait until we miss the targets, because by then it'll be far too late. So one of the things we need to do as professional accountants is be much more demanding in terms of, okay, you've got a 20-year commitment to move to net zero, or 30 years. What's the 5-year plan? What's the plan for next year? What's the plan for 5 years? What's the plan for 10 years? Let's put a plan together. Let's put measures and targets, objective measures and targets in place, and then let's see whether we're on track. Because it's no point waiting for 20 or 30 years. We won't deliver. It'll be too late. The planet will have been destroyed. So that's one of the fundamental roles of a professional accountant, is to be insistent on having measures, targets, and actions. And our job is to make sure that we put all of these together that are credible, that we can communicate both internally and externally to ensure that we're on track. I think it's a very exciting time for us in the role that we need to play to get ourselves to a more sustainable world.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Johnson, for the answers. And also we move to Professor Siddhartha. Our theme for this year's APAFest 2021 is proud to be an accountant. CA is a difference maker. Why did you choose to become a chartered accountant, and how could this CA be more inspiring?
Okay. Well, as a professional accountant, I need a trusted designation which will set me apart from my peers in the industry. I believe that the Chartered Accountant of IAI is the most recognizable professional accountancy designation in Indonesia, and it provides me the credibility and skills needed to perform my role confidently at work. Employers also value individuals who possess the CA designation, and because their outstanding performance, it is often that those having the designations are considered for career promotion and also opportunities. IAI built CA as the professional designation of choice among business leaders, financial experts, and also accountancy specialists. We develop CA based on the international education standards that require professional accountants to have not only solid technical competencies such as in accounting, finance, information and communication technology, taxation, strategic management, corporate governance, and risk management, but also having sound professional skills, values, ethics, and attitudes. Further, chartered accountants are required to maintain and develop these competencies and skills as long as they hold the CA designation. So we strongly believe the importance of professionalism, ethics, integrity, and trust as the bedrock of the accounting profession, and these surely are valuable for Indonesian accountants in facing global competition. CA, with all the competencies inherent in it, is a form of a spatial recognition for its holder in carrying out responsibilities to make significant strategic decisions in both private and also public sectors. So join the profession, you will see tons of concrete examples of why you should be proud to be an accountant and why CA can be a difference maker.
Wow, thank you so much, Professor Siddhartha. It was very inspiring also. Moving on to the next questions for Mr. Johnson. Besides APAFest 2021, Indonesia, as you said before, will also hold a presidency of G20 in 2022, and IFAC also had G20 call to actions, which consists of 4 priority and 2 actions. And one of them was supporting IFRS Foundation initiatives regarding the global standard of sustainability. So how these things can help us as accountants to contribute more to the sustainability?
Thank you. So just a little bit of a background. So at the moment, there are quite a lot of organizations that are setting standards for sustainability. If we look at, what is called ESG, so environment, social and governance. And so there are some good standards in place, but the issue is there is no one set of globally accepted and adopted standards. And that's why IFAC has been pushing to move towards one set of standards. And we believed that when we were working on this and thinking about it just over a year ago, that the best place for this to be housed is within the IFRS Foundation. Why? Because it is a globally recognized, competent body that has been setting accounting standards that have been adopted, IFRS, in many countries across the world. So it has the reach, and it has the integrity, and it has the respect. So that's why we've been pushing very hard for the IFRS Foundation to take responsibility for setting these global standards, building on what currently exists, because they're not starting with a blank piece of paper, okay? Putting that alongside the International Accounting Standards Board, the ISB, which is under the IFRS Foundation. So you have, if you like, two pillars. One that is setting accounting standards, which have been widely adopted, IFRS, and now a new set of sustainability standards, using the same skills and competences and expertise of standard setters for accounting standards. So that's why we've been pushing for that route, because we think it's probably the best way to have the fastest impact. Now, in terms of what it means for professional accountants, as you know, we are experts in information and communication. And we do know that we want to ensure that the consistency and the quality of information that is provided to society at large, whether it's to investors, whether it's to the public, whether it's to the governments or whatever, should be of a standard that is comparable. So when you're comparing reports from one industry within Indonesia compared to another, or from one Indonesian corporate to one in a different country, a different business, or a different business market, or whatever, that there is some comparability so that the readers and the users of that information get the same quality information that they deserve. So that's why we've been pushing for this. And that, of course, is what will help us as professional accountants to be able to not only provide the assurance that is needed, which is the independent assurance provided by, external auditors or whatever, but also importantly, those that are responsible for internal reporting. We must never forget professional accountants spend a lot of their time on internal reporting. So to be able to report against common metrics and standards will help us not only be more efficient in what we do, but also shine the spotlight on areas that need improving. I think that's very important to get, as I said earlier, to make sure we're making the progress that we say we want to make. How do we know we're making that? Is by reporting against a common set of international standards. So that's why we're pushing for that. And I do know that under the Indonesian G20 leadership, that as I said, I've met the B20 leadership in Rome last month. I am absolutely certain that they will continue to push this very important agenda under the presidency, and I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Johnson, for your answer. And this is the last questions for our main session for Professor Siddhartha. Before we move to participants' questions that quite a lot pop up in our chat. And the questions is, besides IFAC call to actions in supporting Indonesia's G20 presidency, what Institute of Indonesia Chartered Accountant or IAI initiatives to commemorate the moment, Prof?
Okay, thank you. IAI has met with IFAC representatives in order to have a collaboration to support the implementation of the G20 Indonesian presidency in 2022. Together with IFAC, IAI is ready to succeed, to promote, to support the Indonesian presidency in the G20 through programs that have been prepared, not only in the context of the G20, but also to support Indonesia's and global economic recovery after the COVID-19 pandemic. We also had a meeting with the Ministry of Finance discussing some agendas proposed, in the finance track. Some of the agendas are related to sustainability, which is about sustainable finance, and also about financial inclusion, digitalization, and also promoting small medium enterprise. So I think IAI has the resources and also the capabilities, to support these programs. We actually have developed accounting standards for small medium enterprise. So we want to promote these standards, and so to make sure, that this small medium enterprise have ability, to prepare a simple financial report so that they have access on loan, from banks and also other financial institutions. So far, one problem of SME is because they are lacking of having adequate financial reporting. So they're very difficult to get some finance, from the bank. So IAI wants to having the capabilities of setting up standards for small medium enterprise. We also want to promote the development of the small medium enterprise, not only in Indonesia but also in the region. These are some of the agendas that I want to that I has plans for next years, and of course, collaboration is also very important. We also want to collaborate with the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce with regard to the G20 programs, and we look forward to also to realize the collaboration with IFAC. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Siddhartha. We will move to our Q&A sessions with the participants and audiences. So the first question arises from our YouTube chat. It was from Archie Nathanael Mulyawan. Greetings, Mr. Alan and Prof. Siddhartha. In your opinion, what criteria are most needed for our Gen Z accountant in the midst of accelerating global competition, which caused by uncertain changes in the professional industry? How can you become an accountant that's capable of making a difference, especially in the era of Industrial Revolution 4.0 that has transformed various aspects to be automated, where it hopes to be useful for the environment and industry by creating sustainable life and development without diminishing the value of accounting? So maybe I let Prof. Johnson first to answer these questions, then move to Professor Siddhartha.
Right, it's a very long. Could you put the question back up, because it's a very long question. Thank you. Right. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for the question, Archie. It's good to see that you are obviously looking at all the things that are taking place around us and seeing how that can impact your role as a future leader of the profession. I think we've talked about a number of things. Number one, we talked about digitalization. One of the things we need to do is to enhance our digital capabilities as a profession, which allows us to be relevant. And I want to pick up on what Professor Utama has just said, which I failed to mention earlier, which is the importance of the SME sector. Because what we do know is that the SME sector in any country, whether it's Indonesia or Brazil or anywhere else, is the backbone of the economy. And one of the things that we know clearly is that SMEs don't have access to the necessary skills that they need to be successful and to be able to thrive. And I think one of the things that a professional accountant, particularly yourselves coming through as students, is that you can help SMEs because you can bring an understanding of the business model. You can help them in terms of their reporting needs, because one aspect that SMEs all seem to struggle with everywhere, and it's not just an issue of developing emerging countries, or developed countries. It's access to finance. And why is that? Because they're not always able to express very clearly what the business strategy is, to be able to report clearly what their journey will be, how they're going to get to their objectives, how they're going to achieve them. And one of the things that a professional accountant can do as a business advisor to SMEs is to help them bridge that skills gap in order to ensure that they have access to finance for their own sustainability. So that's the first thing. The other thing I would say is that within a larger context, and I've talked about digitalization, it's very important to help businesses, particularly today, recover from the pandemic and ensure that we are much better prepared in the future. And I think that's something else that professional accountants should, people like yourselves, as you're graduating and about to go into the profession, just think about how you're going to assess and manage risks going forward. I think that's very important. We are known as the creative, innovative, and skills and goals-oriented profession. That's what I saw in your opening video, which I thought was very, very pertinent to what I think I am and what I think we are. The other thing I would say is that we need to make sure that we're investing in the skills. When I look at how businesses have responded to the pandemic, I think businesses generally have responded very well. But the one area that I believe it has highlighted is that we probably haven't invested sufficiently in the development and capabilities of our people. And I don't just mean accountants now, I think right across the organization. For example, one of the metrics I always like to look at is how much are we investing in people development? Because I see that as an investment as opposed to a cost. And that brings me to my final point. I would like us as professional accountants to change the narrative and the mindset to ensure that we look at things as to how are they an investment as opposed to a cost. Far too easily, we look at things as a cost and therefore a burden on companies and organizations. What we need to do is to identify how can we use that cost to become an investment that will actually improve capabilities within the organization. I think there's a lot to do. And quite honestly, I think you'll be joining the world at a very exciting time where our skills, your skills, are in high demand and will be significantly valued.
Okay, moving to Professor Siddhartha, Prof, to answer the question.
Okay, thank you. So I think we agree that one thing for sure is that changes, okay? World change, everything changes. So if we don't want to change, then we will be like behind others. So therefore, it's very important that we are able and we are willing to keep learning, okay? So we have to know how to learn, okay? Once you graduate from universities, what you learn at the universities will be very different 10 years or 20 years, after you graduate. When, for example, in the case of me, when I graduated about, 30 years ago, the term of sustainability, CSR, corporate governance, it's not in the textbooks. But now, they are very important. Sustainability is like the king. Corporate social responsibility is every company has to do it. Corporate governance is also necessary for companies to survive. So I think one thing for sure is that you need to keep improve and also you need to keep innovating. You should always look, what you definitely you have to have a passion on what you do, and you try your best, in the area that you have the passion. The other thing is that about digitalization and automations. as I mentioned earlier, as a professional accountant, you have to definitely have a technical competence in the ICT, information and then communication technology. But at the same time, you also have to realize, because of this automation, especially with the AI, artificial intelligence, it can also have threats to the professions, meaning that most jobs that currently are done by accountants, probably in 5 or 10 years can be do much better and much more efficient using robots. Okay, so it can also have threats to the profession, and of course, to cope, with this threat, we need to keep on finding, what is the value of being a professional accountant, and as I mentioned earlier, in line with the international education standards, we need to master not only the technical competencies but also areas like professional skills, values, ethics, and attitudes. So one thing that is very difficult to be copied by robots is the ability to make a sound judgment, professional judgments especially on unanticipated events. Okay, because if anticipated, then robot can do that. But the ability to make a very quick and also sound decisions, sound judgments on as I mentioned earlier, unexpected activities are very valuable. And the other thing is keep on behave ethically. Okay, because when you if you keep on consistent behaving ethically, people will trust you, will respect you, and then certainly by combining with your ability to keep on learning, that will be a very valuable traits to you to succeed in your career. Thank you.
Okay, that was a very remarkable answers. Hope it answered Archie. So we move into the next questions. Sorry. Okay, there is 2 questions. Maybe we can answer the Melissa's questions first. Maybe now from Professor Siddhartha first. As professional accountant, how to survive the massive changing of the business, such as Revolution 4.0? Maybe this is quite relevant with the previous questions, but I think maybe there is another perspective to add for Melissa, Prof.
Okay, well, I think, the question actually is very similar to the previous one. So I think my answer is also will be similar. But on top of that, I think we also have to realize it's not just the industry 4.0, but also you need also to be aware, the importance of promoting sustainability.
I think Prof. Siddhartha freezing, right? Oh yeah.
If you read, the type rank Indonesia environmental 50. So I think you as a professional or aspiring professional accountants have to start promoting sustainability, sustainable developments. That's also very important. It's not just, yes, very important, the digitalization and so on. Actually, you also have to make sure how ICT and also digitalization actually support sustainability. And I think the last 2 years we can see, by working at home, studying at home, actually we save a lot of, for example, transportation costs, like gasolines and so on. So I think combining digitalization and also sustainability is also a very, if you have the competencies in these 2 areas, I'm quite sure you will be highly demanded in your future career. Thank you.
Okay, maybe Mr. Johnson, you have any additional point for these questions?
No, I just fully agree with what Professor Utama has said. I mean, for me, sustainability it's not just about the impact we have on the environment. It's what is the impact of the environment on our business? And therefore, will we have a business in 20 years' time? And if not, what are we going to do to make sure we are more sustainable? Access to resources, access to people, skilled resources. Those for me are the kind of things that we should be thinking about. And then how can we, as Professor Utama said, how can we use technology to use resources more efficiently? How can we use technology to access to, I mean, what I found amazing is that actually in the past 18 months, businesses have continued to operate despite the fact we're all, working remotely. I think that's remarkable. And that's the exploitation of technology that Professor Utama has talked about. How can we now leverage and build on that to make sure we can become even more sustainable going forward? Those are some of the challenges that we face as businesses. And those are some of the challenges that professional accountants need to be thinking about in order to make sure that we remain sustainable, but also that if our industries are consuming more resources than are being produced, we need to think very carefully about whether we're going to have a business in 10 or 15 years' time.
Okay, very noted, Professor Johnson. And then we move to the next questions. There is 2 questions, but it's quite similar in our YouTube chat from Ibnu Muzahir and Kevin Ko. So the question is, what is the criteria for an accountant to be called a difference maker? And are there any specific criteria for this? Or is it quite relevant from the Kevin question, like the main skill an accountant should have in this pandemic era? So maybe now, Mr. Johnson, you can answer the questions.
Right. So, I mean, I like the term difference maker, and it's something which I actually picked up from you earlier today. So I'm sure you've got better answers than I can. But let's go back to what are we about as a profession? And I think the words have already been used several times this afternoon. One is that we have an ethical backbone, which means that we want to ensure that whatever we do it ethically, we do it responsibly, and we do it sustainably. For me, if we can achieve all of those, we will almost by definition be making a difference. And therefore, you can say that we are a difference maker. We bring creativity, we bring innovation, we bring an understanding of context, where businesses and organizations fit within society. So therefore, I think that that's ensuring that we convert organizations to become purpose-driven. So there's a greater purpose in society than just delivering value to a narrow set of owners, whether they're shareholders or stakeholders or whatever, or investors. So we want to make sure that there's a greater purpose than just making a decent return. That's important. So don't get me wrong. We've got to add value, but it's adding value for everyone, for society at large. If we can achieve that, we will be a difference maker. So there's so many facets, and we can build on this. That's why I like the phrase "a difference maker," because I really do believe that that's exactly, as I said earlier in my opening remarks. I think that's why I joined the profession, because I really did believe that we can make a difference. And I've always wanted to associate myself with purpose-driven initiatives and purpose-driven organizations. And that's why actually I decided, when I was asked to put myself forward to go onto the IFAC board, because again, I really believe that we are a force for good in the world and we can make a significant difference.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Professor Siddhartha, you want to add? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So accounting professions actually covers jobs that are very widely. Okay, you can be an auditor, you can be a management accountant, or like me, become an educator or working in the public sector. And each job definitely have different requirements. So you need to choose the one that you are the most experts, and also you have to really like, you have to really like what you're doing. I think that's very important. And so the other thing is that if you want to be valued, if you want to be different, from others, first of all, of course, you have to join IAI, becoming a chartered accountants, because by joining IAI, becoming chartered accountants, we will, IAI, we will support, we will support you in developing your skills, by joining the continuing professional development, and also by assuring that you always comply with our code of ethics, because being an accountant is not just having the technical competencies, but also behaving ethically. And by joining the profession, by becoming a member of IAI, you are committed to comply with this code of ethics. This is totally different if you're not joining the profession. If you're not joining the profession, there is no requirement that you take trainings. There is no requirement that you improve yourself. There is no code of ethics that you have to comply. So, by joining the professions, you are like facilitated and guided by the professional accounting organization like IAI. Okay, so and in Indonesia, it's relatively new, this CA. Okay, so people, students are not accustomed yet, to join the profession. But in our neighbor, it's not far. It's like in Singapore, in Malaysia, it's very common because for students to join the PAO, the professional accounting organizations, because they see the values. So I think that's why I emphasize the importance of joining the profession, like IAI, because that will facilitate you to improve your career in the future. As I mentioned earlier, we emphasize, the skills of accountants is not only just the technicalities, not just the technical competence, but also very importantly about the professional skills, okay, the professional skills, professional values, and ethics and attitudes. So by performing this role as professional accountants, by always paying attention not only on the technical aspects of the jobs, but also on the soft skills, like values, ethics, and attitudes, I'm sure that you will be quite successful, performing your role as a professional accountant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Siddhartha and Mr. Johnson. Before we move to the next interesting questions, I want to encourage all of the participants. This is a very rare opportunity, so feel free to ask your questions through our Zoom chat or YouTube chat box if you're watching this via YouTube. So the next question is quite interesting, Mr. Johnson and Professor Siddhartha. Hello, sir. I'm Nova Berliana from Polytechnic Negeri Medan. As we know, every year, many students majoring in accounting graduated, but the biggest problem is that accounting students don't want to become accountant and switching the professions because of the assumption that being an accountant is very difficult, seen from the importance of the role of accountant as a difference maker. How to overcome that issue, sir? Maybe from this time, first, Professor Siddhartha, you can answer first.
Okay. Very interesting questions. Majoring in accounting, but after graduating, do not want to become accountant. That's a bit contradictory. But well, I think so far, okay, based on the data, at least at the University of Indonesia, but I think it's also the same with other universities. The applicants for accounting majors at the undergraduate degree is still very high. Okay, still very high. And actually, the demand for accountants, professional accountants, also keep increasing in Indonesia. Okay, so I'm not so sure, why you are scared, to work as a accountants, because as I mentioned earlier, there are so many type of works that require the competencies of professional accountants. Okay, and I think the most important thing is that, of course, when you decide to take the accounting as your major, you must have some reasons why you do it. Like in the case of myself, when I entered the university about 30 or 40 years ago, in the first year of the Faculty of Economics, there was no requirement yet, to have the major. But because I learned the introduction of accounting, okay, and it's very interesting. It's logic, okay. It's logic. You don't have to memorize. I don't like subjects that you need to memorize. I like critical thinking, logic, and that's accountants. So I'm sure that's also one reason that you choose. So I think when you graduate, you don't need to be really scared to work in the professional accountants. You need to make sure that, as I mentioned earlier, you are equipped with the competencies required, to become a professional accountant. Okay, and again, I'm not promoting AI, but it's the fact actually. By joining the CA, Chartered Accountants. Okay. You will be, throughout your career as professional accountants, you will be facilitated, and also you will be supported by the profession, by IAI, okay, to pursue your career. And not only that, joining the profession, the accounting profession, also enables you to build your network. Okay, IAI has how many? 30,000 members. So by joining the professions, you will be also to build your network. You will get to know your accounting friends, and I'm sure hopefully you will not be scared anymore, by joining the profession. So please welcome to IAI. Thank you.
Okay, that's very great, Professor Siddhartha. I let Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Professor. I'm surprised that people sort of are switching out of the profession because it's difficult, because there's no profession that is not difficult. I think for me, it is about seeing the value of professional accountancy. Yes, it is hard work. There's no doubt about that. But I guess that was known before students decided to major in accounting. But I think it's fair to say that the technology that exists today allows us to do that difficult work in a more efficient way, so we can release our time to move up into the value-added work we can do. So i.e., what I'm saying is we should hopefully, with the technology, be doing less of the mundane technical work and using our expertise, our knowledge, and the training we'd received both as an undergraduate, but also as a member of IAI, and the CPD that is required from that, is to actually become more of an advisor to the organization, as opposed to what I would call the bookkeeper, which is, of course, what we all had to do in the early years of our careers as we were learning how to become a professional accountant in practice. But I think the technology has allowed us to move up the value chain. What I will say, and I can't speak specifically for Indonesia, but what I do see around the world is that there's a huge demand still for professionally qualified accountants. And it's really based on what Professor Tam has already said. You know, the ethical backbone of our profession, the skills that we develop through our training and through our professional continuing professional development are in high demand. There is actually a shortage of professional accountants around the world. And we are seeing the numbers demand continue to grow. So therefore, I actually think we do have an important role to play in society. And yes, it is difficult. Well, if it weren't difficult, our profession will be flooded with non-qualified professionals. So it's got to be difficult because we've got to have an entry level which ensures that we maintain the highest standard of professionalism for the profession. So I don't see that they are in conflict with each other. And I would just encourage everyone not to give up, because as Professor said, the types of roles that we have today in the profession are very diverse. And if I look today on the boards of companies, what you will find inevitably is boardrooms filled with lots of professionally qualified accountants. Why? Because of the specific skills and expertise they bring to a board table. And we should all aspire at some stage to want to be on the board of an organization. And, you know, the professional qualification gets you there. So yes, difficult in the early years, hard, long hours, absolutely. But just see that as part of your continuing professional development, your learning, improving your skills, improving your understanding, so you could continue climbing the ladder and reach top senior positions, either in the public sector or in the private sector. And you know, we haven't spent enough time talking about the public sector, but the public sector needs professional accountants, needs us to make those policy decisions, to execute the policy decisions that are made, and make sure that the public sector is delivering value to its citizens. And you know, wherever I go around the world, where the public sector has good, strong professional accountants, they deliver value to society. So again, don't just think about corporations and businesses. Also, let's think about how we can ensure that we can bring our skills and expertise into the public sector as well.
Okay, very noted, Mr. Johnson, for those informations and answers. So this is the very last questions before we move to our closing remarks. So the questions, the sustainability issues continue to grow and increasingly important for our global economy. Many young people wish to have a better understanding how the accounting profession can contribute to sustainability. So what is your advice for these young people? Maybe this time from Mr. Johnson, you can answer first, then Professor Siddhartha.
Right, so I'm going to build on what I've said before. When I look at sustainability, everyone's saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're sustainable, we're here for the long term, etc. The question is, how do we know that we are sustainable? What are the metrics? What are the measures? What do the real numbers tell us? Are we consuming more than we are producing? Are we putting more CO2 emissions into the atmosphere? Okay. So therefore, for me, the sustainability is about setting credible targets that can be achieved, being very honest about the rigor and discipline you require to make commitments, and then putting in place processes and systems that measure whether you're on track to deliver. And that is all within the skill set of the professional accountants. And then, of course, from time to time, you want to make sure that you're not accused of greenwashing. Therefore, they've got to be independently verified against a common set of standards. As I said earlier, consistency and comparability is very important. So That, I think, is where we play a significant role, driving common standards, driving adoption of common standards everywhere, holding businesses to account by setting clear targets and objectives that are consistent, that can be measured, and that we report against to show that we are on a journey. Now, this is a journey. It's not going to be done in 2, 3, 5, 10 years. But as we know, every journey has a start, and you need to measure whether you're still on track to get to your destination. And that plays very much to the strengths of our profession. So I think we're in for a very important and interesting time on this big sustainability agenda. It has so many facets to it, and we can play significant roles.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. So, Professor Siddhartha.
Okay, thank you. The accounting, as mentioned earlier by Mr. Johnson, accounting profession has a very important role in the public as well as in the private sector. So sustainability involves both sectors, the public sectors, the government.
Prof. Siddhartha, are you
Government
there?
set up rules, set up policy, the regulation by
I think
responsibilities beyond just meeting the minimum requirements set up by the regulations. So in this case, accounting profession plays a very important role, both in the public and also the private sectors, because when you want to the government and as well as in the, for example, a company, a corporations want to ensure that its business are consistent with the sustainability principles. So the business model, the business process has to be embedded, with the sustainability principles. And actually, the Indonesia regulator like OJK, the Financial Service Authority, currently requires all companies under the supervision of this Financial Service Authority to perform sustainability finance, which is in substance, it's the same with the sustainable development. So accountants plays a very important role internally in the company. For example, like developing strategy map, for example, using balanced scorecard, and then developing the system, the information system, like also making a monitor, implementation, performance indicators. These are areas of expertise of accountants. And then when the companies want to report their sustainability performance to the publics, then it is also the role of the accountants to also take part, in developing the sustainability report, and also the assurance of the report that to make sure that the report is really credible and reliable. So this is still developing, the sustainability, the development of the sustainability standards. As mentioned earlier, by Mr. Johnson, the aim is to have a global sustainability standards like IFRS. Currently, we have several standards on sustainability. So this is also the area where in which the accounting profession plays a very important role. So, so as I mentioned earlier, you can be a professional accountant can have a strategic role in the public sector as well as in the private sectors in terms of promoting sustainability. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Siddhartha and Mr. Johnson also. So we have come to an end on our session, Q&A session. So before we really close the sessions, I will give opportunity to Mr. Johnson and Professor Siddhartha to giving your closing remarks of today's sessions. So maybe Professor Siddhartha, you can start first.
Okay. Well, so we have discussed for almost an hour regarding the opportunities and challenges for the accounting professions. For aspiring professional accountants like you, as a younger generation of accountants, I hope that this session can open your mind, with regard to the roles of accountants, professional accountants in promoting sustainability, and also the importance of professional accountants in digitalizations. What is also very important is that you as a future professional accountants need to be very adaptive, to changing environments, and be ready always to learn and to improve your skills. You also need to understand that being a professional accountant is not just having a technical competencies, but also to assure behave ethically and also professionally. I think that's what I want to say. And one more. The most important thing is that don't forget to join IAI, becoming a CA. Thank you.
Okay, very noted, Professor Siddhartha. So we move to Mr. Johnson to giving your closing remarks, sir.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you again for inviting me to participate, and I've really enjoyed being together with Professor Tama to at least try to answer your questions as best as we can. I think the world is at a turning point in terms of which direction we want to go. Do we want to make the world a fairer, more equitable place for all, or do we want to continue damaging the environment as we've done for decades? I know which world I want to be in, and the world I want to leave for my kids and hopefully for my grandchildren, and that is a world that is more equitable, that is fairer, that is safer for all. And I really do believe that our profession plays a very important role in helping shape policies, guiding governments, guiding corporations to do the right thing, to be purpose-driven in everything we do, to hold the mirror up, to make sure that we are on track, pointing out where we need to make changes in the direction we're going. I think it's an exciting time to be a professional accountant. I'm proud that I joined this profession just over 40 years ago. I'm actually even prouder that I'm still in it today. So I'd like to thank all of you, the IAI, for everything you're doing to enhance the professionalism of accountants in your country and in the wider region. I'd like to thank all of the accounting students that are online for wanting to join this wonderful profession. And I'd like to wish you all lots of success as you embark on a very rewarding and fulfilling career over the next decades, as I've had for the past 4 decades. Thank you.
Okay, so we have come. Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson and Professor Siddhartha. We have come to our end sessions, and I will give back the stages to Miss Monica. Miss Monica, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Belinda, Mr. Alan Johnson, Professor Siddhartha Utama, for sharing your valuable insight with us. It was a very fruitful discussion. I believe will benefit all of the aspiring accountants to prepare their future. So thank you again. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to announce the semifinalists for Popular Esai Competition atau Lomba Esai Populer. Congratulations for all of the semi-finalists. Good luck for your final preparation. Ladies and gentlemen, before we end the session, I would like to remind you to join us for our survey and also for the attendance list. Please visit the link that we have shared on the chat box, also on the YouTube chat box, and to fill the right keyword to obtain e-certificate. The right keyword for this webinar is proud to be an accountant. One more time, I would like to invite all of you to join our attendance list link that we have already distributed on the chat box, also on the YouTube chat box, and also to put the right keywords to obtain e-certificate. The right keyword is proud to be an accountant. I would like to also remind you on our upcoming webinar for APAFest 2021. We still have strategi mengontrol pengeluaran perusahaan di era pandemic webinar on November 5th at 2 PM Jakarta time. We will also have Shape Your Future, Career Development, How to Enter Professional Work on November 6th at 10 AM Jakarta time. There will be Bapak Setio Anggoro Dewo, Ibu Elizabeth Imelda, Bapak Endro Wahyono, and Bapak Permana Adisa Putra, who will share with you guys on how to prepare yourself before enter the professional life. Also, do not forget our closing ceremony of APAFest 2021 that will be part of FinBiz 2030, led by Chartered Accountant Worldwide and One Young World, with the theme Recover, Refocus, Rebuild. The event will be held in conjunction with the International Accounting Day on November 10, 2021. We will have Minister of Finance of Republic of Indonesia, Ibu Sri Mulyani Indrawati, the Chairman of CAW, Michael Iza, and young professional who will provide a local and global perspective on the share the challenges after COVID-19. Make sure you are all well registered and join the session. On behalf of IAI, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to the IFAC, Mr. President of the IFAC, Mr. Alan Johnson, to also Professor Siddhartha Utama and our host, Belinda Azahra. Also to all of the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, also all of the participants, thank you for watching our session. I'm Monica Nabilia. Thank you, stay safe and stay healthy. I see you on another session. Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Bapak dan Ibu, terima kasih banyak.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Hoping to meet you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Well done. Bye-bye.
All right,
Stay
bye.
safe.
Okay.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us in this afternoon session. We would like to close this Zoom webinar room on my 3. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.